نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون والسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. Respected organizers of this national campaign, respected leaders and scholars of the Jamaat-e-Islami and Women's Wing Jamaat-e-Islami, and my co-panelists, dear mothers, sisters and daughters, brothers in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I extend my heartiest congratulations to the Women's Wing of Jamaat-e-Islami Hind, National Islamic Movement of India, for organizing this 10 days national campaign on strong families, strong society. This is indeed an important need of our time. The topic assigned to me is present scenario of family life across the world. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and thank the organizers of this program to give me this opportunity to share some of my views on the topic. Since the time is short and the topic is vast, so I start straight away. What is family in the first place? Family is a root on the basis of which a society, a civilization emerges as a tree. Family is the prime institution from which all other institutions emerge. It is family which teaches and trains the members to organize and administer its affairs such that they could be able to organize and administer other institutions in society. If there is no family, there are no institutions, and no institutions means no society. And if there is no society, then there will be a jungle, a wild forest of unorganized and unadministered human beings. In this way, family becomes the first university which teaches its members and disciplines them with values of love, care, sacrifice. And I therefore describe family in Islam as a mini civilization, which works as a gateway to a major civilization. But what happened to this family in contemporary times? What kind of family scenarios we are observing across the world? The scenarios of family that are appearing today are mostly detrimental and fatalistic to the society. Since I need to cover families across the world, and it's not possible to cover within the short limited time, I narrowed down my topic to family in the West and in the Muslim world. And within the West, I took two OECD countries, Organization for Economic Cooperation and for Development, the United States and the United Kingdom. And from the Muslim world, I took Turkey and Malaysia. And what I observed are the three important points. One is the decreasing rate of marriage and increasing rate of divorces. And third, the new non-conventional families, including LGBT families. In all these countries, of course, in varying degrees. Now, I have researched on this topic, and inshallah, I will submit my paper to the organizers of this conference so that they may share it with our speakers and our participants, so that we may inshallah share our views on that. Because presently in the talk, I cannot go into the whole paper where I have discussed these countries, giving the facts and figures and all that. So here in this small talk, I will focus straight away to the family in the West and also family in the Muslim world. In contemporary times, we find there is a drastic revolution in the definition of family. I have brought here one definition which says, family is not defined by biology or marriage or even a home. Family is the people you love and who love you back. The people you feel safe around and the people you can count on to be there when you need them. So in the first place, we find in this definition that the legal marital union is missing in the definition of family. Now, what is, of course, emphasized are the love and concern for each other. The question is, who is questioning love and affection and care for each other in the family? The problem here, the main point here to understand is a very subtle one. It's not the question of love and concern, but the liberation of love and concern for each other from the legal marital union. And then this gives rise to several non-conventional family scenarios in the West. One of them, I can say, how they talk about, I, my dog, and my laptop are a family. So from here, we get many scenarios of families in the West. For instance, some of them I can just say, just mention few names: LGBTQI families, cohabiting families, childless families, staying partner families, single parent families, dual families, blended families, multiple partner families, etc., etc. Now, there are several causes behind the emergence of these non-conventional families. And one of the important and ideological causes that I can see is the philosophy of liberalism and the feminist ideology. Now, we need a full-fledged discussion to discuss feminism and all its political schools. Here, I would just say a few points. Feminism, as it began, we find that it really addressed to some of the genuine rights of women. Rights for higher education, suffrage rights, property rights, and rights for safe and secure position in family, and participation in socio-economic and political structures, and so on and so forth. However, as feminism developed, many schools of thought within feminism also developed, and they, to name some of them, liberal, radical, psychoanalytical, existential, and Marxist, socialist, gender, postmodern, so many. And within the schools of thought, we find the liberal and the radical trends emerging from these schools of feminist thought. And one of the very important and crucial demands, which have a direct evil implications on the institution of family, is their demand for absolute sexuality and reproduction rights. And that really means separation of sexuality and reproduction from marriage and family. Now, we have, as I said, a lot to say about this. I have some books written on that. Inshallah, you may go through that. And then I go to the next point within feminism, and then how they are arguing since 1980s itself, actually, for the advancement of reproduction aid and reproduction control technologies. And this includes, of course, in vitro fertilization, surrogate mothering, and several other technologies which are exploited by the non-marital reproduction proponents, and for that reason it has opened avenues for non-marital families and adultery, in fact. Well, then on top of this, we find that these feminists have allied themselves to the LGBTQI communities on the basis of the argument that we need to work for them and we need to support them on the basis of, in the name of human rights. Each point needs a discussion. I'm just going very fast. Along with all these things, on top of that, what we have is, unfortunately, United Nations playing a very destructive role in organizing international conferences and passing international documents in the name of women's rights. And we have two documents, for example, Convention on the Elimination for Discrimination Against Women, CEDAW, passed in 1981, and Platform for Action in 1995. And every 5 years, we find that these documents are reviewed, revised, and they are sent to the Muslim countries so that they see whether the signatory countries are really applying that in their given nations. And what is very important here to understand is that in this document, there are very important demands and concerns which they have shown, for example, for high literacy rate and trafficking in women and unhygienic conditions. But the critical point that is very important, and that has got evil implications and repercussions on the institution of families connected with health. Under the concern of health, they talk about sexuality and reproduction rights as health rights for women, and that is actually an attack on the institution of family. I have a full book on this platform for action, and I really want and I request you people to look into the problems that this platform of action has created. In short, we can see that all these are the different causes which have given rise to the decreasing rate of marriage and increasing rate of divorces, and also the emergence of non-conventional families in the West. However, I would say that these are the causes, but these are only the symptoms you can see, because uh, the main root, the root cause of all these problems, from my humble understanding, is the modern secular epistemic philosophy of knowledge. From where what we mean by that is the secular philosophy of knowledge and secular methodology of knowledge, which can be traced back to the 18th century Enlightenment philosophy. From there, we get all these modern Western political ideologies, including feminism. And there is, I argue, and I always assert in my writings, there is a close connection between thought and action, and thought and societies and civilization. So unless we revisit Enlightenment philosophy and realign the source of knowledge to the right source of knowledge, and we rebuild our thought, I mean, the Western thought is rebuilt again. We cannot think about that how we can really bring about the necessary changes we need to bring in its institutions, including its basic institution, family. Now I go straight to the Muslim world, and here I would say that there are many scenarios we find in Muslim societies of Muslim families. There can be different ways of approaching the subject of Muslim families in the Muslim world. Like we can talk about, the divorce rates, and we can also talk about the dowry system and several others. But I wanted to concentrate and focus on the problem of interpretations of certain verses of the Quran, and the different Muslim family scenarios that emerge due to this kind of interpretation of the Quran, which do not represent the message of the Quran. We have many examples for that, and I'll go very fast. First of all, I would like to say that what really I mean by this interpretational problem is that the verses of the Quran are presented in such a way that the whole message of the Quran on family is not presented in a holistic and a comprehensive perspective. One of the examples we can say of, for example, the verse from Surah An-Nisa, "Ar-rijalu qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa'i." Now, in this verse, we have two words, two terms actually, "qawwamun" and also "zaraba." Now, if you look into many exegesis of the Quran and also the Muslim literature on family, we find that many of the scholars, unfortunately, they translate the term "qawwamuna rijali" as male superiority over women. Now, this is one of the big problems, I can say, that has given rise to several other cultural problems in Muslim societies. Here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is definitely talking about financial responsibility Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to men, because how they are physically constituted differently from women. And now, for that reason, the financial responsibility is given to them, and also we can generalize others, like other responsibility like defense and security. Now, all these mean is all these imply the responsibility which is given to men based on their different physique, and which is actually which they can perform better because they are in a better position to perform this responsibility of finance and defense and security. Now, this does not, however, mean that women are totally deprived and secluded from performing these responsibilities. No, no such thing. We have many examples from Muslim history to show that how women companions have participated in economic and social structures and how they really helped in the economic family stability also during the time. The point here to note is the uh, what I can say, the main point is here the complementary nature which the Quran is emphasizing, that how men and women are complementing each other in certain functions within the society, within the family and outside the family. This means responsibility of men and responsibility of women in certain functions, and they can do the same. They can perform many other responsibilities together in different other functions. So here the point to note is the complementing nature, complementing roles of men and women, which Quran has emphasized. Unfortunately, if we translate it as superiority of men over women, then it gives also rise to cultural. We find that in the Muslim societies, based on these definitions and just simply and a superficial understanding of this verse and of different Muslim scholars on this issue, we find a despotic, authoritarian kind of environment prevailing in Muslim families, and which throttles the voice of women. They cannot be giving their opinions, their views on certain issues, and this gives rise to a very troublesome not women-friendly environment in the family. And this is unfortunately presented as Islamic culture of family. If women are passive, they are inactive, they are not assertive, then this is Islamic culture. So I call this as a patriarchal interpretation of the Quran and the voice throttled Muslim family. In the same verse, you also have got the word zaraba, and this is always translated as beating or striking and some other words like that. And then there are commentaries talking about then how should we beat, how less to be, and where to be, and all that. Whereas what we need to look into is that here the Quran is talking about the reconciliation mechanism. After the two stages finished, when we come to the third stage, we need to look into how men can be trying to be away from women for certain time. And this word Zarabah, is used in the Quran in several other places where it is used as going away from her and things like that. So we can use this translation instead of saying beat and all other things, which has given rise to, again, such Muslim practices in the families. And if you look into the records of domestic violence and divorces, we find that these kinds of translations, these kinds of presentations of the certain Quranic verses and their practices have given rise to many problems in Muslim societies. Another scenario we find is the mission-free presentation of family and its resultant mission-free Muslim families. This is very hard to my talk, I think, today, because what I want to say here again, I will go very fast because of the lack of time, is that there is a voluminous discussion when you look into the Muslim literature where we are talking about family in Islam, about how we should think about custody rights for children in case of divorce, how we should think about the inheritance rights, how we should think about the dress and social interaction within families and all that. But we are not concerned at all about what is the mission of the family. When there are several verses in the Quran which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, that how this love and affection and care is given to husband and wife so that they should live peacefully and lovingly within the family. And these are the signs to reflect. When we reflect into it, then we need to connect this verse of the Quran, which is talking about the family in Islam, to those verses in the Quran which are talking about the creation of human beings, the oath which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken from human beings. when we are not even physically sent to this earth. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taken this oath from the first prophet Adam, peace be upon him, and the whole progeny of Adam, that Alastu bi rabbikum, and we said, yeah, qalu bala shahidna. We said, yes, we witness you. This verse of the family should be connected directly to this verse of the Quran, wherein we have taken the oath. And this means that family has a purpose, and this purpose of family is the purpose of creation. And the purpose of creation and the purpose of education and purpose of family all are same. And that is, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. We are created human beings and jinn only to serve Allah. And we need here to understand that we need to follow the injunctions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in all aspects of life. And also this should be done within the family and outside the family. And this should be the mission-oriented family, not mission-less and mission-free family at all. So I think we need to look into this. And then we have got many other scenarios where we have consultation-free presentation of family in Islam. There are several verses talking about consultation, and even for weaning of the child, we need to take consultation. But we ignore all these things and we do not give rise to women so that they should be consulted and they give their opinions on different issues. So this is shura-less families, one of the scenarios that we have. Then we have ego world Muslim families. We talk about hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna. But when we really look into the Muslim family scenarios, we find that male wanted to show that they are male and they are superior, and an ego wall is being constructed. And women do not want to give this vent, this egohood of men for no reason. And then we find that because of this, what is at stake is the co-vicegerency of husband and wife to establish Allah's injunctions inside and outside the family. Because of this ego wall that you have created, whereas you talk about so much that you are a garment for each other, but we are constructing ego wall between each other. And then, unfortunately, we also are getting this kind of astaghfirullah, Muslim lesbian families. And this is this is also related to the interpretation of the Quran and also the Western influence on some of the so-called progressive Muslims, how they describe about themselves. They look into certain verses of the Quran, especially Surah Ashwara, sorry. And they said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has punished the people of Lut alayhi salam, not because of homosexuality, but because of the package of crimes that they did, the rejection of Tawheed, and also the ill treatment that they have committed onto the travelers and looting of their property and so on. So according to them, we need to look and reinterpret those verses of the Quran, and we should not make homosexuality as forbidden and haram in Islam. And then they also talk about diversity, and they look into Surah Yasin and Surah Nur, and we know about the unity in diversity in Islam. We can go on and on this issue, but they want to connect it to say that as we understand and we agree with several diversities, we also should accept sexual diversities, including LGBT and all that. Now, this is not simply a rhetoric, but also we find that the so-called Islamic feminists, I have written several articles in that regions. Alhamdulillah, I'm thankful to it. It has published few articles, and also in two referee journals also I have published. I would like my sisters to look into that. So I cannot go into all this detail here, but I would say that nowadays Islamic feminists, among them there are many who are saying that we are the allies of LGBT. So not only that, some of them have declared that we are lesbians as well as we are Muslim feminists. So these are all the different family scenarios which are prevailing in the Muslim world. And definitely, if we really look into the problem of interpretations and the problem of culture in the Muslim societies, we can fix this. I would like to end my talk, connecting my talk to that conference that was held in Hyderabad in Wadi Huda a few years before, "Eh Binti Haram Tu Jaag Zara." So I would like to say, and I said during the time, "Eh Binti Haram Tu Jaag Zara," and I would say that to this Binti Haram, "ए जान अगर तुम साथ न दो तो तन्हा मुझसे क्या होगा." My dear brothers, I would say to you that you say this to your wives, and my dear sisters, I would say to you to say this to your husbands, that as we live together to make our family from several other perspectives as good, as best as possible, we need to inculcate in ourselves, we need to infuse that Dawah spirit in ourselves, that all along this whole journey of these of these contemporary times, especially from the late 20th century to this 21st century, all the problems that we are finding in our society, we can really resolve them if we make our family a mission-oriented family. And this is the purpose of the Jamaat, and this is the purpose of Jamaat-e-Islami Women's Wing. I remember my teenage days with our very dear sister, Sister Nasira Khanam Sahiba, Alhamdulillah, going places to places, streets to streets, talking about different issues, including women's issues, and talking about Islahi Maashra. So this is not something new to Jamaat, that they have taken this, mashallah, a very big step to come up with this caption of strong family and strong society. Let us continue with this, and let us take this as a continuation of the past conferences and efforts. And if other Jamaats and other organizations also join, perhaps we come up with a family stability movement at national and international level. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khairan kasira. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.